Hello and welcome to this week's Inquisition with SiegeScenics. Really excited about this episode. Everyone went all about basing, being a base, playing the base, hitting the base, being in the base, and more stuff about basing. More bass stuff than you can shake a bass drum at. Hope you're all well, folks. My week's a wee bit mental this week. It feels like Tuesday because we're all off on Monday for Paddy's Day, and I hope you had a good Paddy's Day and you didn't drink and fight too much. And Conor McGregor does not speak on behalf of Ireland. So yeah, how you all doing, folks? How's your week been? Drop any questions you have in the chat, and let's have a good episode this week. So we're just waiting for Casey. Hey, Three Spires, how you doing? Hey, James. And we'll see how late Casey is, as he's always late, because it's Casey. We wouldn't have it any other way. So, if you... Oh, there he is there. Make sure that your app's updated, and just send us a request to join, and then we'll start rocking and rolling. Because there was an update for good old Instagram today.
I was on time, bro.
No, you weren't. You'd have been in there before Three Spires gaming group was, and you weren't. You were the third in, so it's just not good enough.
Maybe I was sitting there waiting for you to start it. So yeah.
Yeah, the missus wanted me to go to the shop and get her a sweet treat because she's doing Lent, which means that I'm also doing Lent, and she's gave up chocolate, which means I've also gave up chocolate. So yeah, I had to jump in at the shop and get her a bun so she could have something sweet to eat that didn't have chocolate on it. And you're not buying two different types of treats. One of them had chocolate on it because I wasn't thinking. But yeah. Are you guys doing Lent? Have you been forced into doing Lent at all? Have you give up anything for 40 days?
No, I can't, unfortunately. I can't. Giving up things is not always easy. So yeah.
I know, like I'm doing it to be supportive of the wife, but I think
I'm not a quitter, so I give up giving up. There you go. There you go.
That's fair.
That's very
fair.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that is probably the worst thing that you've ever said.
Yep.
To be honest.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So how are you doing, James? Are you well?
Yeah, good. I've been a bit ill, just obviously with a bit. I think a cold's going around and hitting everybody at the minute. So I think just as the weather like turns from like super cold, wet to mildly warm and still wet, with the occasional sun, it kind of a lot of people tend to get colds and stuff. So yeah, it's been it's just I've had that last couple of weeks, as well as obviously just being super busy with all the things going on. But yeah.
Yeah, when we had you on in January, there you said that you were going to do an announcement for the end of February. No, right, February.
Yeah.
And it had us all guessing. So I guessed that you were going to start a painting range. Did you have any guesses, Casey?
I think I was with you. I thought it was going to be Siege Studios paints, which took us all by surprise there. But
I've actually had a few people say to me they didn't see that see us, or not us, but obviously I'll go into a bit more detail about it obviously in a bit, but didn't see kind of like that being the thing that it was going to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, I think paints is a good guess, but I think the market is pretty buoyant with paints, being frank. There's a lot of paint ranges out there. There's a lot of new paint ranges that have come out recently. Some obviously that have like risen in the last couple of years, like you've got Monument, obviously, or Pro Acryl. They're obviously quite popular now. AK, obviously third gen now, is obviously very popular. So there's a lot of paint ranges that have been developed over the last couple of years, which have obviously risen in sort of popularity. And I think chucking another one into the mix, I think it's irrelevant of how good any paint range is. The industry is so busy with paint ranges now that it might get just lost in the ether of so many paints, if that makes sense. So yeah, and I don't need any more paint, believe me.
Yeah, I think we've all got enough paints and brushes. Like I've still got brushes that I bought like 3 years ago. They're quite expensive that I just don't want to use because I'm quite tight and I'm quite scared that I'll ruin them.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I'm terrible for like hoarding things that I think I'll end up ruining. But my question before we go into the whole Siege Scenics and why you're here, do you have a specific paint brand that you prefer using, or is it different colours for different brands that you prefer using?
That's a really good question. I mean, so I use a lot of old paints, so I still use like a lot of the hex spots. I still use old bolt gunmetal, chainmail, all the old colours. I use a lot of them still to this day. But yeah, a few different. I mean, typically I use the Holy Trinity of kind of like Vallejo, Citadel, and Scout 75. They're kind of like my three go-to ranges. But I do have paints from other manufacturers as well. Like I think that's one of the beautiful things is you have like your core couple of ranges that you really rely on and really use and really are acquainted with, and then you'll just dip into other ones and pick out other odd ones that you like the look of or something like that. So yeah.
Actually, I think everybody's got a specific white that they prefer using from different brands. Like I do like the nuclear white from Green Stuff World. I think that's a really
Yeah,
really good white.
yeah.
But then other people say that there's other whites out there that are absolutely. I think you're a fan of Pro Acrylic.
Yeah,
What, me?
for free.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Pro Acryl, the white, that's very popular. Yeah, mine's cold white, or I actually use two from Vallejo. So they're old, they're the older label ones, but I use white grey and cold white. So they're the two whites that I use for all my white pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, but I think like it's like everything. Like everyone has like a favorite black, a favorite white, like all those kind of things. So yeah.
cool.
So my other guess, I kind of had a wee guess myself, and I was thinking like bases, but like pre-made bases. But what got you into actual doing like bases, like base and materials? What was the thinking behind that?
So I mean, I've been wanting to do like bases, not specifically like scenic stuff, but like sort of maybe resin bases, and other sort of like details and things like that. I've been wanting to do that as like a product. Is something that I love basing as like a almost like a hobby within a hobby. I went off on like a crazy tangent making a load of trench bases a couple of months back, and it was purely because I didn't fancy painting, and I just fancied like making a load of bases. So like I've got this kind of like itch that I scratch now and again, whereby I'll like do a lot of basing, or I'll make like something like that, or a scenic environment or something like that. And it was essentially Adam, who's been one of the team members at Siege for a long time. He was talking to me about like he couldn't find some scenic, and he's always, for what he does, he's obviously a really sort of like established kind of competition painter, and he's always made a lot of his own scenics. So we were just having a chat one day on the phone, and he was like, I'm going to start making my own stuff, and like I don't know how best to do it. And I was like, well, I want to make resin bases, and I want to do like a load of other. I've got ideas for loads of other things, and I'm quite frustrating. I'm quite frustrated that like I can't find something like this. And then he was, oh yeah, no, I'm not seeing something like that. And then the conversation was really natural. Like it literally was just like, oh, what about if we did this? Or what about? And before we knew it, we were talking about like all these things that we wanted to do, and we thought, right, well, there's clearly, if we're talking about it, it can't. The things that we were talking about, they weren't things like really granular, like really kind of like zoomed right in. They were quite broad, quite things that we took a step back and thought, well, surely other people must possibly think this, or there must be a gap for this, etc. So that's kind of like how it started, and yeah, like we obviously got together, had a long chat about it, wrote out a load of ideas. This was all nearly 2 years ago. So like Adam and me have been working on this for like around about 18 months to 2 years, like all the different things that we've been doing. And it's been so hard to keep it quiet for so long. Like genuinely, it's been really hard to just keep it super quiet. But yeah, I did tease it at the end of in January, and I can't believe it was January already. That's flown by so quick. It's literally gone crazy this year. It's like flown by. So yeah, so that's basically how it came about. And we both obviously we both do competition stuff, and like I've always loved basing and creating environments and creating basic, like all these things. So it kind of like it just worked really well in general, like the stuff we were talking about, and yeah. So that it was really natural, I think, which is quite nice about it.
I think the thing with basing as well, like I'm one of those painters, and I really enjoy the start. And as I know that the miniature's coming towards the end, I really get impatient because I want to go on to my next painting
Yeah,
project. But I'm starting to understand that the basing now is so important to kind of tie the whole model
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Like, do you find that yourself that when you're doing like a competition piece, that the base is just as important as the paint job that you're doing?
It's really hard, you know. Like it's. I think it's a different thing. Like the miniature obviously is a miniature, and you want to paint that in whatever way you want to paint it for your entry or for even for your army or whatever it is that you're doing. I think the base is it's an extension of the miniature. It's the environment, the setting. It determines a lot of things that actually are to do with the miniature. Like as an example, if you've got like a guardsman, and you think, oh well, where's the guardsman? Fallen gas mask on the base. Oh, whose gas mask is it? Does it belong to that soldier? He's not wearing it. Like there's loads of things that like you could know. Obviously, if it's Death Corps and Krieg, you put a spade on the ground. You know all that kind of all that kind of stuff. So it's like I think it's an extension of the miniature, and it really helps sell the environment and the setting, and also the personality of the model. In my mind, that's kind of how I see basing now. I think in the early days, like when I first started, obviously miniature painting, of course, like everybody, you get super excited by the miniature and you just work on that, and the base kind of becomes an afterthought, if you follow me. So it's been really nice, especially over the last 18 months to 24 months, to really spend a lot more time with basing, because obviously behind closed doors, I've been working on all these things alongside Adam, yeah, it's just been really, really fun to kind of like have more of a adventure with doing basing, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I've listened to a couple of the podcasts that you've been on. Your one, the Sprugoons guys as well. So I'm going to try and avoid asking some of the same stuff that you've gone over before with it. I know obviously you don't mind that, but
That's all good.
I'm trying to attack it from different angles because that's what we like
Sure.
to do. Obviously, you said that you've gone around loads and loads of garden centres trying to get an understanding of like the different bits and bobs that go on in the real world with things. As someone who despises garden centres when I have a need to go there, how was that? Because I can't imagine anything worse than trudging around them all doing market research.
Well, do you know the thing? I think that's really interesting. Like the reason why I specifically done that, and the reason why I kind of wanted to approach it in that way, is because like one of the conversations that Adam and me had very early on is like we look at obviously we've used lots of different company stuff over the years, and one thing that's really evident is that season it isn't really used at all whatsoever within miniatures that much, if that makes sense. And ultimately, like, all right, you might be on some alien world, or you might be on like whatever, but if you're doing like, I don't know, bolt action, or if you're doing historicals, or if you're doing any of these games which are set on Earth, or even if your army is set on a planet that effectively has seasons, why is that? That's almost like the lore and narrative of the environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really being, there wasn't really, and I mean this is the most professional way possible, there wasn't really anybody marketing scenic products and doing them tailored towards seasons, which now when I talk about it sounds almost as it should be, because I look at doing it like miniature gardening. That's basically what it is, and the going around garden centres, it was really interesting purely to kind of like understand, like to visualize and like through the seasons, and visualize obviously the types of tones, the colors, the way that plants are described, the other thing that again, without trying to plug it too hard, like when you go on our website, on the SiegeScenics website, when in the description of all the individual tough lines, there's a recommendation for, well, if you're using this one, why not consider using, obviously it's not just designed, of course, all cards on table, it is obviously a subtle upsell so that you can go, oh, actually I really like this one, but if they're telling me that this one works really well with it, when you're in a garden centre, it says on the cards of all the plants, oh, if you're planting this, consider this to plant around it, because not only do they work with those plants for, like, I know obviously it's not as in depth as obviously real gardening, but like for wildlife and bees and like all those kind of things, having those plants near each other, they benefit each other, if that makes sense. But if you dial that right down a little bit and just to a more basic kind of approach to it, recommending other stuff that goes with it, not only for the visual contrast on the base, but also so that a customer can confidently go, if I get this and I get this, I know I'm going to have a fairly decent looking autumn base, or I'm going to have a fairly decent looking summer base, or I'm going to have a fairly decent spring base, for example. And that, for me, from doing research in the industry at what other companies are doing, and also from just, again, multiple trips around garden centres to kind of look at how they do the marketing of plants, and not even marketing, just the descriptions of how what they are and how they go into detail about the colours, the tones, why they work with each other. Like, that was really transferable to miniature scenics. So it really was, and I didn't see anyone doing it in that way in the industry. The other thing that I will chuck into it as well is I mean, look, plant names are super complex. Yeah, a rose is called a rose, whatever. But when you look at the cards, they have these crazy, like, I mean, like, honestly, you know, like horses have crazy names, like for horse racing, or like the dogs have crazy names at crafts and all this kind of stuff. Like, but the plants have like insanely complex, really interesting, intricate names that make it really easy to determine what that plant is for the average gardener or someone who's really into gardening. So then when I looked at that and extrapolated that to scenics in the industry, a lot of tufts and stuff like that are basically just called like green brown or orange or like or this. Well, you don't, there was not really a lot of orange, but so for us, and this is the thing that I've had the most fun with, is coming up with all the names of the individual ranges, because like I want a consumer to be able to go into their local FLGS or into their order online and go, oh, what tufts did I use in that army? Oh yeah, I used Frostbitten Vista. It's really easy to remember the name, and the name gives the tough line personality. And also, from a memory perspective of a customer, it's really easy to remember what it is, because it got something that offers an intrinsic emotional value to it. Does that make sense? Rather than just oh, it's brown or it's green or it's this or whatever. So the combination of season, a funny name, or a name which kind of describes what it is but gives it some personality, really kind of, in our opinion, makes our product stand out a little bit, and also just gives the consumer a bit more confidence when choosing things for ranges, if that makes sense. So if they're thinking, oh, I want to do an ice world, well, I could use Frostbitten Vista, and then if I want to do something that works really well with it, I could use these because they've been recommended and the colours work together and there's high contrast there, so the bases will look quite natural. And the natural side of it, so sorry to rant on, but the natural side of it is the thing that for me and Adam was really, really important. A lot of the stuff that we'd been used to using just wasn't very natural in the shape, in the way it looks, in the colours that are used. And we really wanted to do something which, and hopefully the display boards that we created, obviously to show like all the ranges mingled together and all the different, we tried to make them look as natural and realistic as possible, which is something that I think the level of immersion that we try and create with the scenics that we produce, and also just obviously the overlap of the recommendations of using this with this because the colours work together, if that makes sense, is kind of why we approach it in the way we do. Do they smell nice? I haven't personally smelt them. I mean, like I'm not to say that we won't start infusing them with some kind of floral spray or something. I don't know, but that's probably like Mark II or something down the line potentially.
So, yeah,
I must say though, like, what you're saying about upselling, like, you're not really kind of upselling, because if you were to go and buy, if you go into Games Workshop or a Warhammer shop, for example, and you ask, like, I need to get a blue, they'll show you 2 different other blues to layer on top of that blue. So what you're doing makes sense in that aspect, because it is about layering things
Yeah.
on as well. And if you go out into the countryside, you're bang on with like the natural look, because if you're down to the countryside, the grass is different lengths and different colours, depending obviously on the season, but also where it is as well. So it makes sense what you're saying, oh, if you buy this, you're probably better to get this and this and this with it as well.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. We just wanted to do something that really, like Adam obviously has got more sort of competition experience than me. I've got a fair bit, and we've both done a few bits and bobs or whatever. But what we wanted to try and do is take all the stuff that we'd learned about creating really realistic looking compositions for bases, and the way that we use the products, and create a load of ranges or lines that essentially give a really easy the opportunity for someone to just pick up a few packs and then make a really interesting base that looks natural as easily as possible. That's kind of what we tried to do with it. So yeah.
Cool. Something I was thinking about today, because I was looking at, obviously, your base and range, was doing a little bit of research to be professional tonight. And I was twiddling with a sprue, and it was one of the Space Marine Hero range ones with the pre-molded bases. Now, obviously, that's how they wanted to go with those, but the vast majority of minis don't have pre-molded bases. Do you feel pre-molds kill creativity because they've already got all the little details on there? Like you're saying, they're telling a story already.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a job half done, and then all you've got to do is look at it and paint it. So do you feel that sort of takes away from potentially being able to sort of open your mind up to the idea of, I can do this, I can do that, and you just look at it and you think, okay, it's got some dirt, it's got a bit of broken rock and some gun casings?
It's a real difficult one. I think the heroes, as an example, that they were designed, obviously initially the first range was designed, I think it was released in Japan, and it was really to kind of like get the Japanese market more interested, obviously in Warhammer, etc. So for a consumer, having it as easy as possible from the get-go kind of makes sense. Like, I don't have to do basing, it's already molded, I can just paint it, and then and like if you're in the frame of mind of painting, then having the base like that already kind of works. I think it's like it's 50-50. Like, you can always add more to it. Like, if you really want, you can take that model off and just use a plain base, and then you have to be creative to maybe one foot's raised higher than the other, etc. You have to kind of like then make something that then that foot rests on. So it's kind of a yes and no kind of answer. I don't think there's a linear kind of like, oh no, it's terrible, or yes, it's great. Like, I think really it gives different types of demographics and different consumers the opportunity to experiment and try something and maybe go, oh, actually, I really love creating my own bases, or, oh God, you know what, basing's really not for me. I'm so glad these things are molded. So I think sorry to give you a bit of vanilla and like a bit of a politician style answer, but I don't see it as a negative. Like, if you want to not use the base, you can just rip them. You can just not use the model. Some of the times, the thing that makes it a bit difficult is some of those hero models. I think the Terminators, if I'm correct, like the foot, the bottom of the foot is molded to the base, and then you put the ankle into it. So like, I've had it before. I think it was with there was a librarian, limited edition librarian, where the foot was molded onto the base. I had to literally just get a sharp Stanley and cut the foot off the base, lift this tiny little shoe basically off the base, and then reattach it to the model and super glue it on, then file it so both their feet were flat. So yeah, look, there's a challenge to them, but I don't think they're negative or positive. I think they're suited for some people, not suited for others. But those that they're not suited to, you can easily just put them on a different base and enjoy, and then be that creative, have that creative aspect of it, and create the environment that the model's within it quite easily. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got that issue where I'm actually painting a Lord Felthius just now.
That's cool.
But I've actually lost the base, so I'm going to have to try and hide his feet, like his stumpy feet, because the actual grips are actually on. I think my dog hates it, so I'm actually going to have to try and get creative and maybe just like, don't know,
just put him trudging through a swamp or something.
That's pretty much what I'm going to have to do. Like, but yeah, it can be a pain when the bases are not there for the model.
Yeah, definitely. But no, I think they create challenges, but they're also fun. So yeah.
And obviously, the main way you're describing this is gardening for minis, right? And the way I approach my bases is, to be honest with you, is like Dunk was saying, get them done, smash them out. My main force, I've just put on the idea, they're fighting through mud, dry brush it all brown, off you go, done. And again, obviously hating gardening, it just feels like, to me, it's bringing something from the outside world that I can't stand, because gardening for me was standing out in my dad's garden as a kid, pissing down with rain, I'm getting soaked, he's telling me to hold this muddy spade or whatever, and I'm thinking I could be inside playing Mario Kart. So on that basis, obviously it might not be for everyone, but what would you say to try and encourage people to lean into it and give it a go?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I think basing can be as complex or as to use a pun, basic as you want it to be. But I still think there's a really good entry point where you can still create some really interesting bases with very minimal effort. And really, it's kind of like, I don't know how best to explain it. Like, when you're doing the Christmas tree, you can either chuck metric tons of tinsel and decorations on it, and it looks like you fired everything at a cannon at it. Okay, or you can just put on some selective things, a really nice bit of tinsel. The tree's quite bare, but it's got a little bit of decoration to it, and it overall still looks really elegant from a distance, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I think basing is very similar to that. I think that you can easily put some basing material down, you can put some of that texture paint down, whatever, dry brush it a few tones, you can put some moss on there, you can put some tufts on there, etc. And really the colours, having contrasting colours and creating interest through colour, so that all three colours, you've got the basing material, the dry brush layers that you painted on it, and then a couple of colours for dressing, which are, if you're going to compare the base to the tree, the tufts and the moss pads and that kind of stuff is kind of like your baubles on the tree. They're the light catching or the interest catching things that distract you from the fact that the tree is basically two bits of tinsel when it's bare. Other than that, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like you can very easily do some basic things neatly, cleanly, nice crisp base trim as well, so it's obviously framed it really nicely, and you can have a really decent looking base very easily, very effectively, with minimal effort, but it gives you a good return. So yeah, definitely, I think that's more than possible.
So we got a question in the chat from Three Spires Gaming. Would you ever consider doing more whimsical fantasy style tufts?
All I'm going to say is watch this space, because that is something that we've been working on for quite some time, doing it in a way which marries to the ethos of what we're trying to produce with our realistic stuff. So that's all I can say, but get ready is all I'm going to say.
I would say as well that you wouldn't want to be putting all your eggs in the one basket in relation to, in case this didn't work out, you don't want to be spending a ton of money and stuff on stuff that it might not like kick off. But I would imagine that you've had quite a good response. Looking through people sharing the stories, and even a couple of people on here saying that they've ordered it for their shops and that.
Yeah.
What's been the uptake on it like?
Do you know what? Me and Adam, because we've been working on it in secret for 18 months, we haven't really known how it's going to go or how it's going to go down. And because like yourselves have said, like it's something that a lot of people, you said paints obviously or something like that, it's something very different to what most people would think that maybe I or Adam or Siege would do, if that makes sense. And obviously SiegeScenics is a separate business to Siege, but the reason why we wanted to, well, we spoke about it, and the reason why we wanted to obviously name the company what we did is because it obviously, look, we've got Siege Studios is the company that it's got the reach and presence, it's got the brand identity, all of that. We'd be stupid to not have that as part of it. And SiegeScenics does roll off the tongue quite nicely as well. And what we want is, we wanted it to give the feel of what the effort and hard work that we put into the creation of all the products, that they are a very high quality, they are presented really well, and they're made for every type of individual, whether you're a gamer, competition painter or whatever. But as a baseline, the quality and the what they give you on a miniature is the highest standard that we can possibly try and create in the industry, if that makes sense. So we didn't really know how it would go down, and yes, obviously it's got the name Siege behind it, so it has got a little bit of, I suppose, gravitas or whatever because of that. But at the same time, we're new kids on the block. We're doing something that's already in the industry, don't get me wrong, and this is why it was so important during the creation of everything, and even down to the marketing, the branding, like talking about other ranges that complement us, obviously having a very good eye with colour because obviously of our competition background, all the things that we tried to put into it to make it a little bit distinct and different in the industry, but also not so far apart that people look at it and go, well, why don't I just get these, and I can get these other ones, and there's reason to get them, if that makes sense, you know. And it was a really hard juggle, but overall, not to dodge your question, the reception has been, honestly, me and Ad have been a bit flabbergasted by it, to be honest. Like, obviously, look, we had a couple of brand ambassadors that we approached and said, look, we'd love to work with you. We think that, you know, you represent obviously the community really well in the things that you do. We've got obviously people that are competition painters, people that are just, you know, people that are war gamers, people that, you know, are on YouTube, people that obviously have, you know, really good Twitch streams, all this kind of stuff. Like, you know, we wanted to work with all different types of people within the industry, because I think that ultimately all different types of people use Scenics. It's not like it's a product that only X demographic of the community would use. It's something that all people need to make their miniatures look real, which is a good setting or environment. So we wanted to approach lots of different people. Obviously, you got Nicholas, you got Millie, obviously you got Pete, you've got all the individuals and people that we've worked with and approached. It's because we love what they do, and we think that they're a really good member of the community. So that was really helpful. Obviously, the fact that they tried them and they were like, "Wow, they're really good," and they really got on board, you know, with the things. And there was no pressure to, you know, if they didn't like them, obviously we're not going to force them upon them or anything like that. Of course, you know, they really all sort of got on board with obviously all the things that we're producing. But in general, like, people have just approached us and like, we really want to work with tournaments, painting competitions. We want to really be a company that does give back in the industry, which kind of nods to one of the ranges that we produce and what we do with it, and the charity aspect of that tough line as well, which is really close to Adam and my heart. We want to do something good in the community, and recycling is also a very good thing as well. So we're not creating waste that's just not being used and being thrown away. So the reception's been amazing. Like, I'm absolutely flabbergasted by it. The fact that we've had the surge in retailers that we've had, it's only been we're the 18th, 19th of March, I think it is. You know, and we launched on the 28th of Feb, and it's gone absolutely bonkers, you know, and I'm still a bit dazed by that, to be really honest. So yeah. So yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, like, you are part of the Artis Opus,
Yes.
Caesar brushes, and obviously with Siege Studios, you've had like two successful businesses. So did this help? Does it get easier or does it get harder when you are setting up SiegeScenics?
No, do you know, it's that famous iceberg analogy. People see everything above the waves and they don't see everything else beneath the waves. That is arguably loads more that goes on that you have to put into it. Long days, sleepless nights, making sacrifices, not doing stuff on weekends, not going out as much, not seeing your friends, not doing all the things you want to do. You know, and again, like, you know, I've had to split my time. Adam obviously paints, obviously, for the business, like, you know, that does tuition for the business. I obviously do the things I do for Siege. So, like, we've had to obviously divert a portion of our time away from the thing that we do on a day to day to create this thing as well. So there's lots of stuff that goes into it. Like, creating a brand and business is always really exciting. Like, you know, and I'd be lying if I said that, like, doing things previously, whether it's Artis Opus, whether it's Siege, whether it's even like the stuff I used to do when I was in music, where I used to have had my own clothing brand when I was doing that to earn money in the back of a van while I was touring, all that kind of stuff. All those little things that I've done obviously have made launching something else easier. I'm not going to lie about that. Of course they do, because, you know, the best experience is trying and failing and learning and trying and failing or trying and succeeding, going, oh, that worked, I'll try that again, I know to do that next time. So there's obviously been lots of things that have led to it, but no, I wouldn't say it's easy. I just say that there's always a different and new challenge that you need to face, especially when you're going into a new industry or a new thing within the industry that you've got experience within, because you'll think, oh yeah, this will work because it's worked for this company because that company's in the industry, and then you try that and you're like, that hasn't worked. That doesn't go the way that we thought it would. Or it works for maybe paintbrushes, or it works for miniatures, or it works for paints, but it doesn't work for scenics. You know what I mean? Or it doesn't work for this. Or, you know, there's always a new challenge that you just have to grip with both hands and fight it until you win. And ultimately, yeah, experience in some form does help, but I wouldn't say it's easy. I'd say there's challenges. There's stuff that's easier because of experience, but then you'll go, oh, this is really easy, I've done that, and then there'll be this other curveball that comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, I've never dealt with that before, I need to deal with that now. So there's always something new, and which makes it interesting and fun, but there's no reward without risk or challenge, you know. So you have to get through it.
And when you were, obviously, you never launched it until the 28th, and you'd obviously gave it out to some influencers and that before,
Yeah.
But I take it Studios had a fair amount of input in if it worked or not as well. How valuable was it having that business to help this business get its legs?
Good, yeah. I mean, there is a side aspect to why we've done it, and I will cover that. So obviously, that we wanted to create a brand that produces premium miniature scenics in the industry. We definitely wanted to do that. The other thing with it is for Siege, as in studios, we obviously have X amount of team members that work for the company, and what we want to do is, we obviously, although our painting is consistent, as in like between all the team members, but the one thing that we always found is that, like, basing, it's not that it wasn't consistent, but there was more of a risk factor with regards to consistency, and it's something that's always been a little, I'd say, like an 80% match consistency, because obviously tough manufacturers might change the range, or the range might disappear, or I can't remember if I used brown green or green brown, or all this kind of stuff. And we do document recipes and things like that. But I wanted absolute assurance that we as a company as in Siege Studios, can literally say to clients, if you come back in 3, 6, 12, 18, 24 months, not only is the painting going to be the same because of all the things we do, but the basing will also be 100% the same. Does that make sense? And the way to do that is to bring that internally within the business or the group of companies and go, we make all our own scenics. And now if X client comes back in 3 years' time and goes, I want the same bases, we can go, oh, that was Arctic Solstice. I'm going to get a pack of that, put that on the base, job done. And that is the kind of like the silver lining of doing it, is that for Siege, it allows us to be super consistent with our basing. And yes, obviously team members internally in the studio got to see stuff in advance, and we went, oh, what do you think of that? Oh yeah, that looks cool, I like that. Oh, that looks really natural, or maybe that's a bit too bright, that one, or it doesn't look as real as this one, for example, or something like that. So it kind of, it has been helpful, obviously, but at the same time, it's a silver lining of doing Scenics, if that makes sense. It's just it gives us that assurance of consistency, and at the same time we get to produce a fantastic range of products which hopefully people see and use and go, wow, this is really good stuff. And that's ultimately what we wanted.
And also, that may seem a bit of a cheeky point or question to ask, but it will save you a bit of money as well, because you're not having to buy external stuff, whereas it's all internal stuff. See when you were showing your team members in studios, was it like a light bulb? They were going, why did we not think of this 15 years ago? Was it a light bulb moment for a lot of them? They went, why did we not think of this? Yeah,
well, the thing is like within Siege we have a lot of company discounts that the team have. Obviously the painted team, obviously Siege obviously has discounts with lots of different companies, and we pass that on to obviously our team. So having our own Scenics as well, it's a win-win-win. So it's a win for Siege because we get more consistent basing. It's a win because we get to produce something else in the industry, and it's a win for the team members because they get a honking massive discount on getting Scenics through the business. So like it's a win for everybody. Everyone benefits from it, and everything looks better as a result of it. So that there were several angles of attack when creating it, but initially me and Adam just were like, we want to create the best stuff we can create, and if people enjoy it and like it, that's even better. If it just means that we sell a little bit of it and everything for Siege is like super consistent and super better, then that's the win. And the kind of result has flipped the other way. It's gone crazy popular and busy, like in a very short space of time. And this other stuff that initially was quite a high percentage of the reason why we wanted to do it, it's just a benefit of it, if that makes sense. So yeah.
I would imagine that there's been times where you've like finished a paint job and you're thinking like, this is probably the best piece I've done all month, and then when you come to the basing you're thinking it just cheapens the model a tiny wee bit compared to the effort and time that we've put in doing the painting as well.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, look, I'm not gonna. I want to be as respectful as possible, and I don't want to come across the wrong way. Like, there's a lot of good products out there in the market. Yeah, like there is. I mean, we have used, me and Adam have used a lot of different brands, a lot of different manufacturers. There's some there's still ones we like. Don't get me wrong. Like, but the thing is that we've kind of like gone, all the things that we like about those things, we've kind of gone, well, if we can do it and also add all these other things that we want to input into it to make it how we want them and how to make them as good as we would like them, then that's kind of how it is. I don't want to mosey into town and act like I'm the new sheriff. Do you know what I mean? That's not how it is. But like at the same time, like we want to enter the industry and go, this is us, this is what we're trying to put out, this is the angle of the business, and this is the modus operandi of what we're about. If you like it, amazing. If you try it and find it really useful for your hobby, incredible. If not, there's loads of other stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? So like that's kind of the approach.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was, again, when I was doing my research there, I sound like I'm proper clued up on this. I'm not. Obviously, you've got loads of companies out there doing it. Colourforge, Green Stuff World, you see the traditional scenic companies doing it, like the old railway model, for examples, and everyone's sort of leaning in and just nicking it for the war game. So did it really feel like you weren't trying to go into upset the apple cart. Like, look, we're also here now going to do this. You didn't want to sort of run into the pub, start flipping tables over and kick the dog and run away. You're just sort of really sort of saying, look, this is out there, but we're here too. And I think as a follow-on to that, you've also used the word premium a lot. It's on your product. This is premium-based and stuff. How important is that, do you feel, to sort of get the point across of it's not just green, brown, brown, green. It is, we've put effort into this.
Yeah. So just to say that, so good, really good two questions. So like the first part of it, like, yeah, I think, look, obviously, look, Siege has got the presence and reach in the industry that it has. I already, like, by calling it what we did, we knew that it would have some certain kind of impact upon launch, if that makes sense. You know, the other thing I would say is that, like, it's not about being like putting people out of business or like trying to shove everyone out the way or that kind of stuff. Ultimately, all we can do is turn up to the beach and put our towel down like anyone else. And if people choose our pitch, that's it. Do you know what I mean? All we've got to do is do what we're doing as well as hopefully we want to do it. And if people like us, amazing. If people choose Army Painter or choose another manufacturer, then that's fine. It's not a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's plenty of room, especially with the growth that the industry is having now and over the last couple of years with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. That the industry is busy enough to accommodate another Scenics brand. You know, like I've already said at the beginning of this chat, there's so many new paint ranges that have come out. Like all those paint ranges and companies are still being super successful and producing good paint ranges. Do you know what I mean? So like even now, I know that there's other paint ranges being developed. They're going to be released, and they're still going to add another option to the industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately, it's down to each of those companies to produce the best stuff that they physically can and put the most attractive pitch on the beach as possible. Do you know what I mean? And that's pretty much it. That's all I can do. The other part of it, the premium, yeah, look, of course, I don't do things by half measures, and Adam knows that. And when we approached it, I said, look, I don't just want to make stuff that's average or that's like okay only for like X level of individual that only maybe wants to maybe do an army. I want to do stuff that covers a much wider scope in the sense of quality. And if someone from the top end uses it, and I mean that in the least elitist way possible, I really mean that as in like someone who maybe does competition painting, if they want to use it, they would happily use it because it's good enough to use on that type of on that type of project. Does that make sense? But at the same time, if you've got someone who beer and chips night with their mates every single week and wants their basing to look amazing, it also looks great for them as well. And that's kind of like why we called it what we did. We angled it the way we did. We branded it the way we did. We've put the effort into making the best product that we physically can. That's ultimately why we done that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, look, and again, look, Siege is a premium business. Everything we do is to a certain standard. And also, if we're going to be using those products that me and Adam create on stuff that Siege does, it needs to also be. I have to eat the meal that I'm cooking. Does that make sense? I have to. Yeah. I have to still do the thing that marries to the other thing, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason why.
Sure. You touched on obviously your line where it's made out of recycled bits. I think you called it your 24th line. Yeah. Apologise if you have given it a name, and I've.
Now, it's got a name now. Cool. Yeah. It's called Winter's Embrace, and that wasn't chosen by us. That was chosen by a couple of members of the community as well, which was really, really cool.
Oh, lovely. How much do you think that companies, not just like, let's say, your Scenics, but across the range, how much do you feel that there is that sort of responsibility nowadays that they should be looking to recycle? Like, they've produced so much random bits of junk, like plastic and various other bits, and they should just be plowing it straight back into what they're doing and reusing it. You feel that's something that I think we've got a bit of a social responsibility?
I think so. I think that there's two reasons, and I'll be as straight as possible about it. So me and Adam were obviously up to our neck in material, producing obviously loads of stock for launch, over the last 18 months, and I hate throwing stuff away. I'm not like a hoarder or crazy, but like at the same time, like we're producing all this stuff, and the manufacturing process because of what's involved with making tufts and moss pads and all this kind of stuff, you end up with so much excess material. Like it's like airbrushing. If you airbrush and you don't use a booth, you get a little fine sediment everywhere. It's like that, but 10 million times worse, and it looks like you've laid a carpet everywhere. Like so we basically were talking about it, and two things happened. One, me and Adam were sick of sweeping up every day, like, and just like we were sick and tired of collecting all this stuff and just not having any function for it. And obviously, because each of the lines has got multiple different blends, different colours, different tones, once it's all down and you're working through a production run of a thing, you have to clean up every single time, and that obviously eats into a lot of the efficiency of production. So doing an end of day clean up and collecting it all, it's all joined together. We can't separate it all. So we were just like, what are we going to do with this stuff? So as a joke, we literally went, oh, let's see if we can see how it comes out like if we use it. And we used it, and it was like one of those moments where we looked at each other and we're like, these look amazing. Like, why? Well, like, we've got all these different ranges, and this stuff that's made out of recycled material looks like one of the best tough lines that we've produced. So we were like, we've got to use it for something. So it had a working title for quite a while, which was Junkyard Carpet. Hardly anyone knows about that. We literally call it Junkyard Carpet. You know, and Adam still call it that, to be fair, even though it's got a name now. But regarding responsibility, again, like, as a Scenics company that's basically creating worlds and creating stuff which is natural and it's an environment, throwing the contents or the excess material away is such an oxymoron to what the business is about and what the thing is. So we literally thought, right, what's the best thing we can do with it? Well, we can make a tough line with it. We can sell it. Okay, cool. So we're not wasting it. Obviously, then we're not profiting because we paid for the material anyway to make the other ranges. But we were like, we want to do something really good with it. We're recycling it, so that's a tick. That's a good thing. I think the community should name it, because I was running on fumes on names at that point. So I was like, let's get the community involved to name it, which I think is a great way to just build interaction and also give a little bit of ownership to people that come up with it. And at the same time, because we wanted to be honest and say it's a recycled product, I'd feel terrible taking full return on that from selling it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we thought, right, cool, what's something that there's so, like, honestly, there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of charities out there. There's obviously a lot that are out in our industry. There's a lot that are close to Adam's heart, a lot close to my heart, etc. Blah blah. You know, and we just thought, what is something that every single person, if we tell them what we do with it, I don't think anyone's going to turn around and go, that's not a good cause. Do you know what I mean? And we really wanted, because there's again, charities are all over. There's loads of charities out there, and people obviously have favour certain ones for certain reasons. They've got a family member that's afflicted by something, or they've got an animal. Like, if it was my choice directly, and it was just me, I'd probably give it to a Doberman sanctuary or something like that, because obviously I've got Dobermans, etc. But we want to do something that, like, literally everybody could get behind, and obviously Great Ormond Street. I don't really need to go into too many details because this is obvious, you know. We just thought it's something really, really good. People can get behind it. When they buy it, Winter's Embrace, they know that they're not only obviously getting something which has got a good soul and a good purpose behind it, but at the same time, they're giving back to something that affects so many people in the UK. You know, obviously people travel internationally to come to Great Ormond Street, and so it's not just a UK thing. You know, people travel from all over to come to see the doctors, clinicians, and all the and everyone obviously at Great Ormond Street. So we thought it was a really good way of giving back, and yeah, like, you know, that's the reason for it. But I do think companies, with the way the world is now, and obviously all the stuff that's afflicting the planet and all that kind of stuff, I do think that more of a consciousness to that is only a cause for good in the industry. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you know, even I begrudge when we pack stuff and send stuff out, although we do use new boxes. And this is for both companies, for Siege Studios and SiegeScenics, like, if we see a box and it's come in from a delivery and whatever, and it's like, it's not a bad box at all whatsoever, we will recycle and use it. You know what I mean? You know, and like, because it's like, ultimately, if it still does the job, it's not damaged, it's not in a bad way, it still looks professional once it's all packed and wrapped and all taped up and everything. Using that tiny little box is still a positive little thing that we can do back to mitigate having to go and spend X amount buying a load of new boxes and then just throwing away other ones, or obviously multiple recycling trips every single week, you know. So I think there's lots of things that companies can do to really, even a tiny little bit, just look at their processes and practices and go, yeah, I should do this, or we should think about doing this, you know, because it will benefit customers and it'll also benefit us as our responsibility or corporate responsibility for waste and for creation of stuff, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I reuse all my eBay packets all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not going out and buying more when somebody else has already done it. As long as I can take that one address off and stick another one on,
Yeah.
saves me a quid down the post office. So,
100%. Yeah.
We do have a question
yeah.
from chat here from Beard and Brush. Will these base materials be available at FLGs in the USA and also further in the USA?
Yeah.
What's your plans for expansion?
Yeah. So we already have a couple of shops that are interested in the States. We've already got a stockist that's coming on in Canada. We've got a stockist that's coming on in Australia. We've got a stockist that's interested in the States. So yeah, look, if a retailer wants to stock our product, we will move heaven and earth to work with them. You know, we're all about a 50-50 working relationship. We want to stock with stores that are interested in the range, interested in the products. I don't care what country they're in. If they want to stock us, we'll definitely make it available. Europe's been a bit difficult for launch, just because obviously because of all the things that have gone on in recent with Brexit and all that kind of stuff. And we're currently working on that at the moment. So Europe will be open to retail very, very soon. I'm waiting on confirmation of a couple of things, and I've got a couple of things to sort out. But initially, from launch, we basically done rest of world apart from Europe, because there was I won't bore you with it, but there's certificates and there's all this other stuff that we have to get in place, and there's very, very rightly so, there's health and safety stuff that we have to obviously make sure for packages. There's all the bits and bobs you can possibly imagine. So yeah, but yeah, rest of the world, US. Like if you've got a local FLGS that's interested in stocking it, just drop us an email, get in touch, or we done a post recently on Instagram where it's like, tag your local friendly gaming store or wargaming shop if you want them to stock or look at our range or whatever. We had quite a few people do that, you know. So if you ever, we'll post that quite regularly. So if people want to tag their store, they can do. So yeah.
And I've just found out what FLGS means. I actually didn't know what that stood for. I was like, what does that stand for? But so I'm going to ask you a daft question there, right? We've been asked some serious questions, right? So, like, you kind of remind me of the guy who was Monica's boyfriend in Friends, Dave Favreau's character. You've conquered the music world, you've conquered the paintbrush world, you've conquered the painting world, and now you've conquered the basing world. When are you going to become the ultimate fighting champion?
I have zero interest in look, UFC is all well and good, like watching it. It's funny to watch it, and you always back the underdog. Yeah, that's very kind of you to say those things. I don't feel like I have. Like, I think I've just tried doing stuff the best that I physically can for what we do, you know. And if people look at it that way, amazing. I think there's a lot of opportunity when something gets really busy or interesting, or people start getting behind it to let that go to your head. But I think one of the things that someone that I used to work for many years ago, and I kind of like really love the way that their ethos was like, no matter how things go, as in like how big they get or how well you get known, all this kind of stuff. I think the moment you start having separation from where you started, or from like the person that is not at that point or not doing that thing, I think that's the moment where like resentment kind of comes in, and where people people feel they don't know you, or that you're not like them. Does that make sense? And ultimately, Siege, I'm a guy who started a commission painting business in a flat above a chemist, you know. Like Scenics, yes, obviously it's had a bit of a head start with obviously Siege, obviously after 12 years of trading. AO, yeah, okay. We that came out of nowhere. I thought of that one evening. Approached a couple of people that were doing more sort of proficient me than retail in the industry. Look, AO, as much as it was my baby, I wouldn't have been able to do it if it weren't for the guys from Element and working with them. So it's not just me, and I think always remembering that and being able to always say that is a much better position to be than, oh yeah, that was my thing. I don't know. I'm not the sort of person that walks in a room and goes, do you know who the hell I am? I'm not like that. Never will be. Never have been. And I think if you stay grounded, you retain respect, because people go, well, they've worked hard, they've put a lot of hours in, you know, they've obviously sacrificed a lot, whatever. And it goes back to that iceberg analogy I said earlier. People only see the start, the name in the naming lights. They only see like, oh, this company or this thing, or they don't see all the things that have led to that bit above the waves. Does that make sense? And until you walk that path and do all of that stuff for yourself, it really it's not anyone's fault for not knowing that you've gone through that. Does that make sense? Like they can only. We're
back. Don't know what happened there. The stream died, but we've posted it on our page, so we'll be able to stitch it together when we put it on the old YouTube. Our stream, but we haven't, so that's good. Sorry about that, James.
No, it's all good.
I was able to kind of cancel it mine because when Casey messaged me and WhatsApp saying stream died, and I was like, oh no, I really hope we haven't lost part one, but it's actually posted on our page, so I'll be able to stitch it together.
No, it's fine. I was literally like, have I pressed something? Have I done something wrong? Has something gone? I was like, oh god, have I done something?
It's been threatening to do it like for the first for the last 45 minutes. It was like pausing at points as well.
Yeah.
So it's just Instagram, I think.
No, it's all good. I literally thought I'd done something, so apologies.
Oh no, you're absolutely fine, man. You're absolutely fine. And thanks for coming back on for part two.
All good.
We did have a question. You're talking about people who, you're not one of those people that likes to walk into a room and say, do you know who I am? But one person that does like to do that is Whatgate Studios, and he asked a question before we managed to get cut off. He does like to say that when he's in a room, do you know who I am? He was asking, are you ever thinking of going over to America? Now, if the answer is yes, say no anyway, because he will try and slip something in your drink.
Track you down.
Look, there's a lot of ocean between the UK and the States, and like as much as that's a great distance to sort of like rinse out your brush. At the moment, there's no plans. We've got a couple of team members that paint in the States, so we have got a couple of team members out there. Look, having a physical operation out there would be a dream, like it really would, and I'd love to to have mirror what we have in the UK in the States, but that's a huge investment. Having someone to run it, make sure it runs exactly the same as what happens in the UK. We don't want to compromise on quality, of anything for clients, like the way we are in the office, all that kind of stuff. So look, I would love to, 100%. Like I think
Warpy was more talking about, are you planning to go over?
Personally.
It's basically so he can stop you. So before you go over, I would get a restraining order for anybody from Watford who's small and specky who lives in Florida.
Yeah,
and then that will just cover all bases.
Yeah, look. I've the last time I went to the States was like 2019. I went to Siege had a stand at Adepticon in 2019. We, truth be told, like obviously the pandemic happened, so that was like 3 years out of the game of any travel or any kind of stuff. Like I'd definitely love to go back, 100%. Like I think the demographic and the market out there is massive. It's huge. Like Europe and England is obviously big, but like America is like massive. So yeah, definitely. I'd love to go back out there. Obviously now I've got another commitment here in the UK. Obviously I've got SiegeScenics, so like arguably that's probably made it easier and also harder potentially in both respects, but it's definitely like you never know. Like I never say never. Like at the moment I'm pretty tied up and pretty busy with various things. That's before we even talk about actually getting to do any painting for myself or any of the things I want to do, but yeah, I'd love to, 100%.
And I'm pretty sure Warpy would like to tie you up as well. Casey?
So I'm going to go back to the garden centres, staying off topic here. This is my partner.
For a man that doesn't like garden centres, you're banging on about them quite a lot.
Here's the reason, Dunk, right? Here's the reason. Get off my back for a second, mate. We've got one down the road from us, and my partner signed up for a loyalty card in this one garden centre. The other garden centres are available. I'm not trying to promote them. I'm not going to say their name. But garden centres, the vast majority of them have coffee shops. What has been your favourite coffee shop to visit in a garden centre on one of your many trips?
The thing is, they don't have names. Like you go in there and it's just like you're walking around and you'll be like, I don't know, like in the pottery section, or you'll be like in the this weird aisle where it's got like all the gnomes and stuff and it's something out of a horror film. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then you'll turn the corner and then there'll be like a random cafe. It's like an oasis in the middle of absolute hell. Do you know what I mean? Like there's not really. I think I'm trying to think really. I don't even think they've got names. I'm not even kidding you. Like the garden centre near me, the one that I went round quite a bit. Hey, and you're right. The one I went round was like they didn't have like a name. I think it's literally X Garden Centre Cafe. Like, I think that's literally what it's called. So yeah, but yeah, it's always good, especially when you've been looking at crazy plant names that are sending you into a nightmare, for 3 hours or whatever it is. But yeah, no, garden centre cafes are great. So yeah,
So, what would be your order from a garden centre cafe?
jacket potato and beans, can't go wrong. Can't
Solid.
go wrong. Can't go wrong. It's
Yeah.
classic. Can't go wrong.
Solid.
Keeps you full. It's pretty cheap. It's easy to eat it. It's good. Bonus points if it's got a hard skin as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I do love how quickly you answered that. You didn't even have to think about it. It was straight in there.
That shows how many garden centres I've gone in over the last year and a half. You know what I mean? So I pretty got it on down. I've got it on repeat order. So yeah.
And again, with respect to just staying off topic a bit, following on from your chat last time when you came on, you obviously mentioned your dogs.
Yeah.
Have you got any plans to get any more? How are you going with your dogs currently?
Right, so my other half can hear this. The problem is I follow a lot of like Doberman rescue pages. Where I live, there's a Doberman rescue place, specifically, obviously a Doberman rescue place. So like, I take them for walks. I see other Dobermans. If I could, I would have. I don't know what the group name is. I'm going to say flock, not that they fly, obviously. But I'm going to say I would have a flock of them if I could. I literally would. I'd have one in every colour. Everything. Yeah, I literally would. I'd rescue as many as possible. Like, I've got one rescue and one from a puppy, and I would definitely would rescue over again, because like seeing my rescue get better and better and better and better through loads of training has been one of the most amazing things. Like, she's not 100% sorted yet. Like, there's still things that trigger like a bit of reactivity and things like that. But yeah, like just seeing her change as a I almost said person there, but they have obviously a personality, a pack. You got it, Ian. Top marks. Like I would have like a massive pack of Dobermans, definitely. Like, they're just like amazing dogs. So yeah, I would 100%.
When you say one in every colour, it makes me wonder that you're going to be walking around and you've got like one dyed pink. So maybe don't go that far.
No, I wouldn't go that far. No, definitely. But they do come in like six. A lot of people don't realise that they come in like 6 different colours, like all black, black and tan, blue, black, grey, black, white. Like they come in like loads of colours. So yeah, they're really cool actually.
Since you came on, I've actually got a new dog, so I'm at the puppy stage training this now, and we've got her in our room with us, so there's like limited mess. So we did try and train her on the pads, and we left her one day in the house with the pads, and she ate the pad. So we've stopped, but we actually just stopped using pads.
Yeah.
But she's actually come on quite quick. But she sleeps on our bed, and at 4:30 every morning without fail, she'll wake me up to take her out to the toilet, which is good, but also a pain in the ass because she doesn't wake up the wife.
Yeah.
But we're at the puppy like training toilet, and she's just stuck to me like all day.
Yeah.
So it's
hard. Having a dog. Well, a puppy's hard, dude. Like, literally, like, yeah, the whining in the morning to wake you up. It's hard, dude. Like, and when you're mine are crate trained, so like, literally hearing them cry as a puppy when they obviously want to be with you and they don't know what's going on, and you've got to like, I haven't got kids, but like I've been told it's very similar to that. In the very you've got to kind of like stay strong, if that makes sense. It's hard. It's really hard, because the humanity factor of you is like, I really want to make sure they're okay. They're okay, but they're just doing it because they don't want to. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I get that completely. So yeah.
Yeah, we're just substituting kids now, because we've got 4 kids and 3 of them have left. So we've now got 3 dogs and 1 kid left. So hopefully he'll be out the door soon, so we can get another dog.
Fair enough. That's fine.
What would be, so you've been to many a coffee, as Casey was saying, many a garden centre, many a garden coffee shop. What would be your caffeine or coffee drink of choice?
See, I'm not a coffee man. I'm a tea man, definitely. Like, but I've veered away from like normal tea, and I drink a lot of. It sounds really, really stupid, but I drink a lot of fruit tea, and I have the occasional. I don't know if it's Earl Grey or English, but I don't know what it is. It's one or the other. But like, I drink more tea than I do coffee. I've never been a coffee person ever. Like, ever.
See what I started using now more, because like I found it in the house one day, and I went fishing about a month ago, and I bought tea bags, but it turned out it wasn't tea bags, it was fucking loose tea, and I was absolutely livid. I was absolutely raging.
I
So I was
remember
like,
your messages, yeah.
what am I going to do with this? So I took it back home because I'm tight as fuck, and then I remembered that we actually had a tea diffuser in the house, so I've been using that instead of tea bags, and it's way
Yeah, I
better. It's so
know.
much
Yeah,
better than
it's
tea
great.
bags.
Yeah, all the fruit teas that I've got are like I got like a for Christmas I got like a mother half got me a little tea thing, and you take the top part out and you pour the leaves, all the mix or whatever in, you pour the water into it, and it then diffuses into the glass, into the bottom of the tea thing. It's amazing, literally. I just sit there for hours watching it as you pour it, all the swirling colour is like it's literally like it sends you into a trance. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but I've been way more into teas than I am coffee. So I can honestly say to you, I've never in 38 years of being alive, I've never drunk a single cup of coffee. I've tried it once, sipped it, hated it. It wasn't like I just haven't drunk it. I never have. I think like tea or coffee is like Marmite. Some people are in tea camp, some people are in coffee camp. You get some people that kind of go between potentially, but generally speaking, you're either tea or coffee. I think
Yeah, but then
And how
comes
are
down
you
to the
on
whole
Marmite?
debate. It all comes down to the debate of when
Marmite
you're
all day long.
making tea. Then as well is do you put the milk in with the tea bag and then the hot water, or the hot water, the tea bag and then the
No,
milk?
you maniac! What you want?
No,
You got to put
don't
the
put
tea bag in, get the mix right, take that out, and then put your milk in.
Oh, wait, that's what I do. I'm a diffuser man now, so I always put the milk in first, right?
Yeah,
I'm not a heathen,
yeah.
but there are some heathens out there. There's probably a few heathens watching. Tiz, for example, she's definitely a heathen. But yeah, you get some weird people that like to put the milk on top of the tea bag before they put the boiling water. I've seen those
No,
people, and those people,
can't do that. That's absolute heresy. That's
yeah,
like
it is. It is.
yeah. The tea Inquisition should be kicking the door down. Honestly, like it's just like yeah, like I say, like
See,
yeah,
So,
I'm not even a fan of tea, but I know you don't do that.
yeah, yeah,
There you
yeah.
so
You go.
right, one of the questions, right? I was kind of anxious about asking this as well, is right? Where did these mental names come up with? Were you and Adam sniffing some serious like
So um,
gorilla glue or super glue or something, or sniffing
no,
some magic markers?
no.
You know what I mean?
No, 100%. So the naming, Adam will gladly let me say this. I have taken full responsibility in the naming. Literally, we for the initial launch range, so we produced probably around about 35 lines, as in like 35 that we wanted to divvy out between the seasons, and I literally had them all out on my dining table that's like in front of me now, and I literally just sat there and we were discussing what ones are going to go in this season, this season, this season. We tailored them and made them to be for seasons, but sometimes like some colours used in winter and autumn can overlap a little bit sometimes. So we just basically so literally once they were all, we decided on the number of lines. I think obviously it's 23, 7 moss and 16 obviously tough lines. That we'd already spoken about naming them, and like I really wanted to name them all from the beginning, purely because of that thing I said earlier about obviously ease of recognition, like easy for a customer to come back and say I want Frostbitten Vista or Arctic Solstice, all this kind of stuff. And really all it was, all cards on the table, is literally I just look at them, I think about the season that they are, and then I try and make a name which kind of explains what it is, but also is unique from anything else that we do. And I just went a bit crazy, so like, yeah, that's essentially how it is. But I have a lot of fun naming them. Like we've got, again, to say a little bit, we've got a lot of stuff coming that I'm in the process of doing names now. And if you think the names we've done now are crazy, just wait until you see the names that are coming. That's what I'm going to say.
I think you need to be looking at what type of tea you're drinking and making sure that it is actual tea that you're drinking and not some psychedelics.
Yeah,
Because when you're
I
saying,
didn't buy it.
when you're saying, I'm watching the pretty colours for hours, you're definitely tripping, my man.
Well, what I'm going to say, I didn't buy the fruit teas that I'd been drinking, so I'll have to double check what's in them. But
that has never stood up in a land of any court. That has never stood up in court.
yeah, but yeah, I literally, yeah. I mean, Tiz has just said in the comments they sound like Yankee candles, and like I had one other person say it to me, but I've not looked at any other things out there. I literally just sit at my dining table and go, cool, that's for this season. It looks like this. What can I throw? What can I create? Obviously, what can I use to create an individual thing for that? Like I've got. I can't show them. I can't bring them up now because obviously I'm on my phone using them for this. But like I've literally I've got a list of all the a whole long list of loads of ones, and it's really silly. I know it sounds crazy, but because since when the gears started turning on creating the names and creating the ranges and all this kind of stuff, obviously we've got loads of other things that we've been working on for the last 18 months. There's loads of things that we're going to be dropping very soon and stuff coming out, etc. So I've been like waking up in the middle of the night, like thinking of names. I've been thinking of colours. I've been thinking of like I've been thinking about like I've been walking around and I thought, oh, that'd be great. That'd be amazing for a tough line or for a moss pad range or whatever. And like, there's been conversations when me and Ad have been producing, and I've like been like, oh, like I think we should do this as a name. This would be like really funny, like for this season. And then we're like, cool. We've got to do it the reverse way. We've got to pick all the stuff to make the tuft or make the line to marry to the name. So it's kind of it's spiraled a bit out of control. But if you think the ones that we've done are good, and hopefully people do, the ones that are coming are even more bonkers and they're even more memorable. So yeah, get ready. I think the funniest thing that someone said to me is that we've got a moss pad range, one of the autumn ones called Tiger Sunrise. Someone said to me, it sounds like a cocktail. And I was like, well, that's amazing. So I was like, that's like the best thing ever. So like, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine a bar in Chelmsford selling them.
Yeah.
And so obviously, without trying to pry too much information out of you about what you've got coming next, because I respect that you want to play your,
it's all good.
your chest. I think what interests me more is also the sizes that you offer. Again, thinking obviously that you are a premium product, you don't want to be loading up someone with like kilograms worth of stuff. But for anyone that might be looking at your stuff and thinking, right, well, I've done my army in these sorts of base materials, I'd like to do a board in them. Would you ever consider going higher on the sizes?
That's a really good question. Yeah. So our size range goes from the moss pads, which is really short, like super, super short, all the way through to Ian will take a kilo apparently, but all the way through to like 6 mil. So like we've got quite a wide span already. All of our stuff is like variable length because it makes it look more natural. And there's other things that we do with like splices and blends and all this different stuff to create obviously the lines that we do. Good question about longer length. I think the thing for us is like 6 mil is mainly the average. That I say the average, it's like the top end of lengths that's used typically in the industry, if that makes sense. Adam's literally just joined the conversation. So what I was going to say was like 6 mil is like quite a nice length, but generally Desert Orchid Solstice is on its way. But what I was going to say was like the longer lengths. I mean, look. I would say that we are open to lots of things that we're going to be producing. We've got lots of things in the works, but at the same time, yeah, like I would say, never say never. Mm-hmm. Just wait and see what we've got coming. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. So yeah.
Thinking outside the box as well here. Obviously, we've got, like I say, your AO work, your Siege Studios work, in the Scenics range. Would you ever consider branching out into like completely different markets? Would you go down a terrain route? Would you go down something else that maybe you sort of identify as an area that, could need a bit of work on, or that there's a gap in the market that you could fill?
Look, I'm always open to a market gap. I've always been open to that and looking for that and seeing what we can do in the industry to do stuff that's different and that, that kind of gives us, something a little bit unique about the business. That's something that we've always wanted to do. You mentioned quite a few things. Like there's lots of avenues that SiegeScenics can go down, and we're very interested in exploring how far we can, and how wide and diverse in the sense of stuff that we offer. Look, the business head is saying to me, if we can offer a really, really wide array of stuff, it means that when someone comes to us, they can buy with confidence and get all the things that they need. If we can do that and facilitate that for somebody, then obviously that's really good for us as a business and also good for consumer because they can get everything in one go, if that makes sense. But at the same time, like, yeah, like I think you just need to look at really kind of like what Scenics actually means and what actually that encompasses. Yes, obviously, look, obviously we're going to do tufts and stuff like that because that is what is like kind of like the core thing of the bread and butter of a Scenics company, if you follow me. Yep. However, there's lots of different branches, to use a pun, that mean that we can do lots of things, and Adam and myself have spoken about it lots. There's loads of things we want to do. Obviously, look, we're 2-3 weeks into the business being launched, and obviously the reception has been incredible. So again, like huge thanks to everybody that's gone as nuts as they have. But if you think what we've done is great, just wait. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah.
And will you be taking this on the road, like for any conventions or that this year? What's your
Yeah.
plans for conventions with it this
Yeah,
year?
we're at two this year. So UK Games Expo, we will be there. Obviously, Siege Studios and SiegeScenics have a stand, or that we've got a stand together. So obviously, it makes sense to have both businesses on the same thing because they kind of work in harmony and synergy together. Iron Skull, our painting competition, or Siege's painting competition. SiegeScenics is obviously a sponsor of it because it makes sense for that to be the case, and we will have a stand there as well. So there will be a SiegeScenics stand at UK Games Expo and Iron Skull, and that's it for this year. Again, 26. I don't know, maybe other things, etc. I'm not too sure, but like we're as per the website, we really want to work hand in hand as close as possible with different companies, different organisations, different events, tournaments, painting competitions. Obviously charity, as you know, is close to my heart and Adam's heart. So like if there's stuff that we can do to help with that, then like there's lots of things that we want to do as a brand and as a business. And yeah, like there's lots of things in 26 that I think that will be way more proactive in doing stuff. I think those two events for this year makes sense. One, because obviously it'd be a bit weird to have our painting competition and not have Scenics there.
Yeah.
And Siege obviously having a stand at UKGE and not having the Scenics there is just insane if we don't, you know what I mean? So like it makes perfect sense again. But yeah, I think those two settings are really good for year one. And it gives us a really good opportunity to connect with people and for them to actually see it in the hand and go, cool, I see what this is about, you know? So yeah.
And what about yourself? You like you said earlier that you've had to sacrifice a lot, like personally, and even with your own painting. Like, are you back painting yourself now, or are you still just all about?
Yes and no. Like I've funny enough, I've painted a model this weekend, on Sunday. I painted a model for something that we're putting up on Monday. So that's the first painting I've done in a while. That Lycus model is still causing me absolute insanity at the moment. I will get it finished. That's like sixth or seventh on the I'll get it done count. It will. That's the thing that I want to tee that off, and then I've got one other model that I'm kind of halfway through for somebody that I want to tee off as well. And then once they're done, I'm on to I'm out of the river and into the ocean, so I can literally just have a bit of fun for myself. You know, like I've got the Exemplars of Siege, which is my like Primaris Space Marine chapter that I created that I want to do a bit more stuff on. There's loads of models like screaming at me, like paint me, you know, so I want to get that done. And then obviously there's competition stuff that I've got sitting here literally in front of me now that I'm like, I've got a model that I've wanted to paint since I was about 9 years old that I've always eluded me. I'll show you it. Like I've got the old Warlord, the old Epic Warlord Titan. You know, like I've made like it's got one of the old bunkers on it, like one of the old bunkers. It's got like a big like airfield like road on it. And I want to paint that. Have I got around to it? Absolutely not. You know, but so yeah, I've got things that I want to do, but like obviously that a business takes up a lot of time. It's something that you have to put a lot of effort into to kind of get it off the ground, and irrelevant of any initial name or support or whatever, it takes a lot to get it going. And that ultimately needs to take priority over other things, other personal things to get it to that point. Do you know what I mean? And then once you have to go through the storm before you get to the calm. Do you know what I mean? So that's just how things are, unfortunately. But yeah, that's just it.
So I'm going to jump in quick before Dunk asks another question. With respect to Iron Skull and everything going on the 7th of June, considering it's also War Boot Day, how hard will it be for you to not go away and start raiding all the old paint and sort of finding all the old hex pots and all of that?
I'm going to ban myself, I think, from Warboot like I think number one, I'm going to try and make myself so busy with other things on the day that I can't be distracted by going round Warboot, because if I do, I will literally not do anything else all day. Warboot has this tendency of you'll be like, oh, nothing amazing will turn up today, and then someone will turn up and they'll open this box, and like the scene in Indiana Jones where the light is coming out the box or whatever, or Pulp Fiction or whatever it is, there'll be this holy grail thing that suddenly appears. And like any boot sale, I'm sure people have been here at a boot sale, when you first rock up, like you get like bombarded with people before you even started getting your stuff out. You know what I mean? So I think most of the good stuff will go before I even get a look in with how busy I'm going to be on the day. So it pains me to say it because I'd love to be rummaging around in boxes trying to find hex pots, but that probably won't be my day on the 7th, unfortunately. So yeah.
Good stuff.
What model has eluded you that you would like to get then?
Oh, Oh, that's a really good one, actually. Eluded me. What, as in I can't find it, or as
Yeah.
in? Do you know what? The Lord Commissar in metal. If you know the Lord Commissar model, it's the one that's got the pistol outstretched and it's got power swords.
Yep.
I've never been able to find it. I've always found fine class ones, but it's like such an amazing sculpt and model. But yeah, finding one in metal has been a bit of a missed opportunity. Not found one of those before. So yeah.
Probably my last one of my last questions. I've went through a bit of a stage where I just haven't been able to paint and get back into the groove for it. I know this is more about scenics, but this is a question I thought I'd ask you because you were popping on. How do you cope with having that kind of painter's block, or how do you cope with that with your employees who've got that bit of painter's block, and how do you get out of that yourself?
It's pretty hard, actually, mate. Like, honestly, I would just say, like, typically it's because you've been painting the thing that you're enamored of, the thing that you love, the thing you enjoy, you know, and that's, you paint so much of it, or you do so much of it that you kind of get like painting blind because you've just been immersed yourself in it, if that makes sense. Genuinely, just either do something different within, so you're still doing hobby, but do something different, as in, like, maybe, like I told you earlier that I just made a load of trench bases randomly one day. Like, that was an instant fix to painter's block, because I was like, oh, cool, I'll just do this, and then I spent a day making bases, and it kind of got me back in the swing of things, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just reapproach that thing, if that makes sense. So, like, do something different, still within your hobby, you know. I'm always going to say it, massive cleanup of your desk, that always helps massively, like getting that cathartic tidying away of everything, sorting stuff out, and then you've got a lovely clean desk, and that kind of makes you feel, oh, I really want to sit at that and paint, if that makes sense, you know. So that helps. Or the other thing is, if you've been painting X faction insert model range here, pick something so far removed from it and paint it with colours that you don't normally paint, okay, as an exercise and an experiment, as a challenge for yourself, because you'll learn so much from just painting with colours that you don't normally use, and it'll be an experiment and an interesting thing that you can do. And then what will happen is that'll either go really well and you enjoy it, or you'll hate it, and then you'll go, oh, actually, I want to paint the thing that I love and actually know how to paint. So it's double-sided, but it works either way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because like I mentioned this to Tiz, who we had on in Female Only February, and she said the best thing you can do is go and build something.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I went and did that. I went and built some plague bearers, and I've been doing them all week. I'm doing each one a different colour, so like
Yeah, that's really cool.
colours as well.
That's
so
awesome.
But it was just something that I thought I'd ask you as well, because I've been asking quite a lot of people, like, how do you get through that painter's block? But it seems to be that's the set, kind of tidy up, maybe build something, paint something totally different, and that.
It helps hugely. It really does, because it just literally it tickles a different part of your creativity, and you're still doing the thing that you love as hobby, but it makes you fall in love again with the thing that you've kind of got bored or blinded of doing. Does that make sense? So it just helps, you know. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to things like that. So yeah.
Casey?
I've used all my questions up for tonight, Dunk. Would you believe it? We've done really well here tonight, and I think James has been an amazing guest to have on again. I know we said we'd have you on later on in the year, and we've like nearly 6 weeks later we've got you back.
I've used up my voucher now, so I'll leave you in peace. Yeah.
We were actually both blown away when you actually emailed us to come back on. Like, I think that's what you said. It kind of harks back to what you said at the beginning of like giving back to the community, and like, so you reaching out to us, which is like, nobody's really reached out to us to ask to come back on way before we would have thought and even thinking that you would maybe come back on.
No, it's all good.
That's absolutely amazing as well. So thanks very much for.
No, it's all good, dude. Like, you guys are the hosts, so like you don't need to thank me. Like, ultimately, like it nods back to the thing I said. I started one of my companies in a flat above a chemist. The other one was an idea from walking around a garden centre. So like I'm hopefully the most hopefully I'm just like the most grounded guy I can be. So like it's just having a chat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're having a good chat about lots of different things that are interesting to us, and if people enjoy it, amazing. And I'm more than happy to help out. Like, I'm more than happy to give back and do anything I can, because kind of like I had that in the beginning when I started. I had guys at Mini Wargaming that done a video for me, you know, that kind of went a bit nuts or whatever. Like, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. So how can I have the audacity of now not doing that in return because of all the stuff that's happened for me? Do you know what I mean? I just find it a bit convoluted. But yeah, look, it's been a great chat. I've used up my return ticket quite quickly.
Yeah,
You know,
Look, you actually haven't, because we've not asked you to come back on.
exactly.
You asked to come back on, so you've still got
fair.
that email to get.
No, fair. That's okay. Well, I said I'm always up for a chat. I'm always up to help, and if there's anything I can do to help your podcast, more than happy to do that. So no stress at all whatsoever. Like I'm always happy to.
I'm going to actually reach out to Adam and see if he wants to come on as well, because it'd be like good to see some dirt on you as well.
Yeah, it's fine. Get Adam on. He'll love it. He'll love it. Get him on.
Yeah, because like, I watch your guys' podcast as well, and I mean, it is good to watch as well. So
it's very kind of you. Thank you.
Here, you want to kind of just watch everybody and help everybody out as well. So
Amen.
It'd be quite poor of us not to watch other people's podcasts.
Yeah, definitely.
Give them the support that they need as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
But before you go, is there anything else you would like to plug or shout out before you go?
I mean, I feel like I've been plugging more than a plumber. Do you know what I mean? So like you know, look, if you like what you see on you know, or what we've spoken about, then just go have a look on the SiegeScenics or Siege Studios website. You know, that's always amazing. If you want to hear me talk about old retro paint till the end of time, go and watch the podcast. You know, like but yeah, ultimately, you know, just have a look, and if it's something you like and want to support, then yeah, I think what I'd probably say out of everything is, if you really want to help a good cause, go buy some Winter's Embrace so that we can donate money to Great Western Street. That's what I would say. Yeah. So yeah.
And I think that's probably the best way to leave it. Folks, thanks for joining us tonight. Been sponsored by Orange Brushes. We never did a stupid segue into them. And also, we've been sponsored by SiegeScenics as well. So thanks very much, guys, for all your support and help. And we'll see you next week, folks, with the Hercules III or something. And we'll catch you all same time next week, folks. Thanks again, James. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks. Okay. See you there. Bye-bye. Bye.